All right, everybody seems to really be interested in these videos for some reason about doing maintenance, so we're going to keep them up. So today's maintenance video, do your damn maintenance or do your damn service. We've got the 901.1 3.8 GT3. Ew. We are doing a major service to it. So we're going to drain the oil, which I forgot to put in the last service, but obviously, or not the last service, the last video, I forgot to discuss the oil draining. So on these, we've got our crankcase, we've got our tank, and then we've got our filter down here. So we are going to drain the oil in all these locations, and then we've got to get the bumper ripped off. We're going to do air filters in it. We're going to do a drive belt on it. We are using the new, highly recommended, especially for this engine, GT oil. Just a little preview of things to come. I got some turbos, and that's parts for GT2 RS. So we'll get this torn apart, and we will start looking at the engine. All right, we can see everything we're going to do here. So we got the PDK transpan because the filter is incorporated into the transpan. We got wipers because I recommend doing these yearly, so you don't have streaking wipers on your windshield. Spark plugs, drive belt, air filters, although we should have two. I'm waiting on my parts department because they don't seem to comprehend that still. Pollen filters, the awesome Porsche tire sealant that says Volkswagen on it, brake flush, PDK service, clutch fluid, the GT high RPM engine oil, and anybody that's had a 911 or any of the sports cars knows that your hood struts fail continuously. So the ball-headed 8 is your best friend on doing these, so you can get around this water pipe. All right, for any of my techs out there that haven't figured this out yet, so the Has-It cup for the older oil changes, if you take that and cut it down like we do, I've got to cut down one for 993 for the lifter, the oil filter for the lifters. So any of the old guys will know about this. But if you take this Has-It cup and you cut it down, you can sneak it up here in the hole with no problem. And then I lost it. And then 27 millimeter wrench, and you are in there. And hopefully whoever did the previous oil change did not make it crazy tight, because I have had to completely smash some of these to get them off. So if you can steal oil buckets from everybody around you, I just get everything draining at one time, and that way you can make sure you let everything really drain out to that point where it's not even dripping anymore. So while we're down here too, we can discuss our engine designations here. So this is an F motor. We want a G motor. The G motor is the best, the most updated of the 3.8s. So this one is not the best. It has not had any issues yet. But the other thing, and one of the quick ways you can tell, when you get the oil filter off, my parts department loves to do this to me. So we can see here, this is the threaded section of the filter. It's like 20 millimeters. And then the one for the F, because they gave me the wrong filter, we can see the one for the F is actually about 5 millimeters. Well, I don't know if it's 5, but it's about 5 or 6 millimeters larger opening for more oil flow there. So if you can just pull the filter off, you can tell right away when you get the small hole. But also, the engine build designation right here. This is our F code engine. We want a G code. So I do everything I can to keep these engines from firing off dry, especially the 3.8. So I take the filter and I pre-fill it with oil. You got to let it sit and absorb the oil into the filter element, and then I top it off. Now, obviously, when you throw it up here sideways, you do lose some oil, but depending on how quickly you can screw it on there, you can keep most of it in here. But even if you lose half of it, you still already have a filter element that's full of oil, so you don't get that rattle whenever the engine fires off, and it may cause some kind of damage in there. So like I said, especially with the 3/8, I do it with all engines, but especially with these 3/8, you want to make sure that it does everything it can to not get any additional damage. So we can see on all the sports cars, our hood struts here. So this one's really, really bad. I mean, it'll hold. So with the new struts on there, you'll see you can put it like here and it'll hold. Ta-da! So we'll see. I mean, you can literally hood struts. So here we are with the bumper off, the rear end of the car removed. We can see the airbox here. So we've got our filters, the dual filter element. Interesting, 991.1 and 991.2 standard GT3 uses just a regular air filter. They hadn't swapped over to the BMC. BMC manufactures the high flow air filters for Porsche. Your RS cars come with them automatically, but the 991.1 and .2 do not from the factory. You can get a BMC replacement, which I recommend. This customer declined. They wanted to just go with the regular filter, but you can get those. So I think it's a little interesting. 992 generation, the GT3 automatically comes with a BMC filter in it. So another little tidbit of information, almost all your air filters, whether they be the pollen filter or the pre-pollen filter or the engine air filter, have a production date on them. So it is one way of getting an idea. That's what I use to try to get an idea. If I don't have a maintenance record, I usually look at the pollen filter and see what the production date on the pollen filter was. Most of our pollen filters get used within a month, 1 year of the production date. So if it's a 2022 production date, usually it's gone on a 2022 to 2023 service. So you can see on here, this is the 12th month of 2018 on this air filter. This is the one that came out used. Here's our new filter. You can see the 6th month of 2023. So we're in 2024 now. We're basically in the 6th month of 2024, the 8th month, I guess. But you see we're within a year. So normally those filters get used up within a year. So in the future, if somebody came in here, you could look at this and see that it's a 2023 filter. So the service was done somewhat time between 2023 and 2024. It helps out a lot with like 996 and 997s when you have no clue when the services were done and the cars are 20 plus years old. With the airbox out of the way, we can see in here, we're getting to our belt. So we have one access point right here to get to the bolt that runs through this support on the engine carrier. And then on the other side, I pulled this one a couple threads out to get a little looseness to take some of the tension off the carrier here. So we can see we've got our spacer that was here is removed. That gives us room to run our belt. I wanted to touch on this real quick because this is PPB's one of his big pet peeves here. When you install these belts, guys, let's put them where they're in the direction that we read stuff. First of all, it looks professional. And second of all, if we ever have to pull this belt off and everybody does it the same way and they go the direction they should go, we don't have to mark the belt and we don't have to question if we're putting it back on the right way. If everybody would put it on the direction that looks the best, whenever we do any repairs, we just know which way it goes right back on again. So it's something that takes zero time to do right, and it makes it easier on everybody. And then when another guy comes in behind you, if they're like me and they're anal retentive, really anal retentive, when I look at these and they're flipped around, I flip out. PPB just figured something out while I was doing this 1000th belt of my career. So, just like the air filters, 21st week of 2023, here's the one that came off. I know that the service, we have a record of this service. The service was done last time in 2019. So we have the 50th week of 2018 on the belt. So if we don't have a record of our belt replacement, we can see on these belts at least, we can look at so after all the writing is the production date of the belt. So it's the same way. I mean, you should be within a year of the production date of that belt. Eureka. All right, so we got our PDK service every 6 years on a GT car. Porsche does not give a time or mileage on the filter, which is in the pan. So with the GT cars, especially the ones that are tracked, I recommend doing the pan, including filter, with every service, every transmission service, so every 6 years. Recommended to be more often on a track car. It's up to you, it's your car. So the one thing for the techs out there, make sure you break your fill plug loose first. I see this happen all the time, especially the older transmissions. Guys will drain them before breaking the fill plug loose. And then the plug strips out or gets seized up or something, and now they have a transmission with no fluid in it, and they have a plug that they can't get out to put fresh fluid in. That puts you in a world of pain. So make sure you can get your fill plug out before you ever take your drain plug out. Just a tip from the old guy. All right, with the pan off, we can see the first layer of the inner workings of the PDK transmission. So this is just our valve body with our electrical connectors and everything. This is basically pretty much as deep as Porsche will let us go at this point in time, at least in the shop. We can get valve bodies for it, but we can't get much more than that. They've started offering us, now we can get clutch packs, so that's good. But anything beyond that, and for us, we have to do a new transmission. Now I know there are outside ways of getting the internal pieces, and I have done some of that stuff with the parts being brought in, but you know, through the Porsche way, this is all we can touch. And then you can see this is our filter. The filter is incorporated into the pan, and then you can see these are magnets to pick up your metal shavings. There is a bleed and fill procedure for this, for the PDK transmission in the Pevis. We need to be making sure that we follow that procedure, guys. Don't just fill the transmission and ship it. I know that that's been getting done. This does bleed all the valves out and the rods and everything, and then actually fills it the way it's supposed to be filled. And now we got plugs. So this is on the GT cars, the GT3s, GT3 RSs. Porsche was really nice to us on these. They made it incredibly easy, so I already loosened this heat shield up, obviously, to get it out of here. And we can see right there on these cars, not like the turbos, we got our coils and our plugs, easy access. You get a nice set of headers on here like the Dundon system, and it gets even easier to get to. So this is one of the highlights of this service for sure for the technician. I do recommend checking your coils. It only takes a second. Look for cracks in the coils. They don't crack like they used to. We used to have a big problem with them cracking, but just do a quick inspection of your coils. Make sure that everything looks good on them whenever you get them out. See, on our driver's side, it's basically identical. The one thing you do run into over here, the plug-in for the height sensor here, I unplug it, just kind of pull it up out of my way, get it out. That way you're not fighting with the connector the whole time. There is an issue with people sometimes forgetting to plug that in, and you get a suspension fault down the road, so we need to make sure that that gets plugged back in. But aside from that, on this side, everything is the same. The 3.8 cars, if somebody tracks the car, I keep the oil level down here, because this oil, when I haven't driven this car, this is just sitting here. So whenever you drive it and the temperature starts climbing, this oil level will just go through the roof. It's crazy how much this one moves around. This guy doesn't track the car at all, so we'll probably put it right in the middle, because if they don't drive it enough, it'll go up over the mark and leave a message saying that they need to have it drained. And if they drive it a bunch, it drops down below and says they need to have it refilled. And if they take it to the track or do aggressive driving, when it gets real hot, it goes up over that top mark and says it's overfilled. So the 3.8s are just a pain with the oil level. But so depending on the customer, I leave it anywhere from here to like the middle. So that's just something you want to keep an eye on. And that is the service on a 991 GT3 3.8 liter. So easy, anybody can do it. The left lane is for high-speed traffic and passing only.